Hi everyone, welcome back to the Mixed Concepts channel for yet another video about ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. So I am making this video after the recently concluded tri-series in Nepal, which featured Nepal, Scotland and the USA. Yeah, if you've viewed my channel before, you know I'm a USA cricket fan, and I had even tried to live stream a couple of the matches on YouTube, which weren't really successful, but that's far from the point, which I'm going to talk about in this video because I just want to summarize all the matches, and especially as a USA cricket fan, uh, giving my sort of review of how the series went for USA. And based on the title, they did manage to salvage top position in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2, but not without poor performance overall. Yeah, this was the worst tri-series that USA have played in this year's Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle. They've only won one game out of four matches in this tri-series, which is the worst performance they've had. Every other time they've won at least two, and they've even won four in some of the tri-series, even three. So yeah, and this time just one win, so it wasn't very good. However, at the same time, USA still did manage to keep the top spot. They were on top at the start of the series, and by the end, they are still on top, as you can see on the points table, but not without a bit of a problem that was exposed in Nepal. Well, the good news is for USA that this is the last time in this Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle that they will play outside of North America, because the next tri-series they play will be in Canada, and then there's a final tri-series that will be at home in the US. So hopefully USA can have a much better performance there. But yeah, coming to this tri-series, I did mention it in my preview video that this is going to be the toughest tri-series that USA would play in, because they're going to be playing in Nepal against Nepal and Scotland. And what did I mention? It's not easy to beat Nepal in Nepal, and Scotland, they are also a top two team in this ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle, so that's not going to be an easy tri-series at all. And I said that if USA don't win any games, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. It would be disappointing, but I wouldn't be that surprised if they ended up going 0 wins out of 4 games. And at the end, they only won one game out of 4 games. I did also mention that if USA can beat Scotland at least once in this tri-series, I'll take it. And they did. They did beat Scotland once. They had a really close loss as well in the other game. The rain kind of helped Scotland. Otherwise, USA could have really had 2 out of 2, but there was a commendable effort, even though the rain kind of screwed over USA. They did so well to almost win that game as well, which would have been one of the craziest chases. But it is what it is. Yeah, the games against Nepal, they were a different story. Both the times were one-sided losses. Absolutely terrible performance from USA in both of them. Nepal, they were just a better team. They outplayed USA in both the games, so credit to them. And credit to them in general, because they've now won 6 out of their last 8 games. They've doubled the amount of points that they had about a month and a half ago in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2, so congratulations to them for that. They're now up to the 5th position in the table, so that's good. Good for them. They've managed to come back, and I did say that Nepal are dangerous because last time in the 2019 to 2023 Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle, they did the same thing. They needed to win a lot of games at the end, and in the last 12 games, they won 11 and came all the way from the 6th position to the 3rd position. So why couldn't they do that again? And they're already showing signs that they could. Of course, the only negative for Nepal is that they've played all their home games in this ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle. So the remaining 2 tri-series that they play will be outside of Nepal, where they haven't been as successful as they have been at home. So that will be their challenge. But considering that they've picked up some really good form in the ODIs in this year in 2026, I wouldn't be ruling them out in any way, shape, or form. I genuinely think they could somehow scare Oman or Netherlands and potentially go into the top 4. Maybe Oman. Netherlands, they have played 4 games less and they have 4 more points than Nepal, so I don't see why Netherlands should drop, and they're probably too good of a team to let that happen. So I don't think it will be Netherlands or drop. It would more likely be Oman that could have a slip up. They did slip a few points in Nepal after getting points against Scotland and Namibia. I thought they would do better in Nepal than they actually did. They only had won 1 game out of 4 games, just like the US did. So they have left the door a bit open for Nepal to potentially sneak up into the top 4 position. Now, coming to this tri-series, to summarize the games real quick, the first 2 games were the best games of this tri-series because the results show that Scotland won both of them by 2 runs via the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method. Yeah, the rain is what made those 2 games interesting. In the first game, I mean, Scotland, they made 243 for 8. Not a bad score. They batted all 50 overs. And then Nepal, they made 218 for 7, but they needed 221 to win in 39 overs. So that's where the rain kind of helped out Scotland in that game too, because otherwise Nepal would have probably had more time to potentially chase down the actual target of 244 in 50 overs. And the same thing in the second game as well between USA and Scotland. Scotland batted first. It was a 47-over game from the start, but Scotland made 321 for 6. That's a tremendous batting effort. It's also poor bowling from USA. And then USA as well, they were about 160 for 4 in the 27 overs. So yeah, in another 20 overs, they would have had to get 160, which is doable. I'm not saying that the USA would have won from there, but they would have had a better chance than having to chase down 89 in the last 5 overs. But still, I don't know how USA almost pulled it off. It was a great effort, especially from Saiteja Mukamala. He made 100. He played really well, but unfortunately couldn't help USA get over the line, and they lost by 2 runs as well via the Duckworth-Lewis-Stern method. And then the third game, USA-Nepal. USA batted first. They got all off for 195. They were looking good. They were 120 for 1. But then Shayan Jayasuriya, he got his half century, and then he tried to go for the maximum, and he got out. And after that, it was just a complete collapse from USA. They couldn't even get to 200 at the end. And Nepal, they comfortably chased it down. Credit to Kushal Burtel for scoring a 120 not out. Asif Sheikh also got a 50. And Ishan Pandey, he got his debut ODI match for Nepal in that game against US. And he made a not out as well. I think he scored like 20 runs not out, so good on him. And I think he's actually been a really good pickup for Nepal in the ODI squad. Yeah, Ishan Pandey, he's been brilliant for them. In the 3 games he's played, he had a not out against the US in the first meeting. He scored a 50 against Scotland in the second meeting. And in the final game of the tri-series against the US, he scored an 84. And he also won player of the match. So he's been really good for Nepal in the first 3 games. Of course, these are in Nepali conditions, which he's familiar with. So he took advantage of that and played really well. I would be very curious to see how he would play outside of Nepal. I really hope that he gets picked as well for the next Nepal tri-series, because he seems to be a really good batter based on what I've seen. He's willing to take some time, and he can make most of the chances I believe that he will get. So he's definitely someone to look forward to for Nepal. Yeah, as a USA fan, looking at all the games, I mean, the only game they won against Scotland was when their bowling was actually really good. Saurabh Netravalkar won player of the match. He picked up 3 wickets in the power play, bowled really well, and pretty much ruined Scotland's chances in that game. And even Rushil Agarkar, he went for a lot of runs, but he also got 4 wickets. Unfortunately, in the second meeting against Nepal when he played, he went for only runs and got just 1 wicket. And that was pretty much the story of USA's performance, really. The bowling was pretty poor in the games, in all 4 games, really. Whether it be the first game against Scotland, they gave 321 in 47 overs. So even though they kind of got screwed over having to chase down 89 in 5 overs via the DLS method, it doesn't matter, because if US had conceded 15 or 20 runs less, they would not have to chase that much in the first place. And maybe they would have won the game. So at the end of the day, USA, the bowling really just screwed them over that day. And then against Nepal in the first meeting, I know 196 was always going to be a below par score, so it was going to take a monumental effort to even win the game. But they could only get 1 wicket, and they didn't look threatening at all to make it challenging for Nepal. And Nepal just easily chased it down. But the only time the bowling was good was when they made Scotland all out for 169 in the second meeting against them. Mark Watt did score 60, and that was the only time maybe there was 60 for 5 Scotland. So I think USA, if they were a little more clinical, could have got them all out for less than 130, 140, but that's okay. 170 is a pretty reasonable score to chase, and USA did that really well. They chased it down in 27.1 overs, so can't really complain about that game. And then the final game against Nepal, they conceded 300 yet again. They scored 317, did Nepal. Yeah, USA, they just couldn't pick up wickets early on. They got 2 wickets in 30 overs. And even though they were able to curtail the number of runs, the problem is that the batters were set. And they just nicely took advantage of that towards the last 20 overs. And Dipender Singh Ari, the dude's an all-star already. He's been really good for Nepal, to put it simply. Especially after the T20 World Cup. His ODI form has really picked up. And he's just been brilliant for them. So credit to him. His bowling has been great as usual. And his fielding, I don't even need to speak about that because he's probably the best fielder in cricket. I'm not just talking about associate cricket. I think including full member nations, he might be the best fielder because he's that good. So yeah, good for Irie and Nepal in general because they managed to get 3 wins out of 4. Scotland, they did win the first 2 games, but I think they would be a bit disappointed as well to have only won 2 games and then lose their final 2 games because they had the chance to get more points and go above the US into first position. And they only got 4 points at the end. So even though USA probably had the worst performance, definitely actually, they had their worst performance in a tri-series in this cycle of the ICC Cricket World Cup League 2, they still managed to salvage onto the top position because Scotland could only win 2 games. And USA, with the 1 win they had, was against Scotland. So they were able to keep that first position for the time being. But there are a few concerns for USA. Maybe they're not suited for subcontinental conditions, and if that's the case, then yeah, they're probably gonna have to choose better the next time they play in the Indian subcontinent. But I thought they played pretty decent in the T20 World Cup. But of course, T20Is and ODIs are different formats. They're different game. You're gonna have different game plans altogether. So it's a bit unfair to compare those two types of formats. Also, I think a big blow that USA had was Monang Patel. He only played the first game of the tri-series against Scotland in that rain-affected match. And after that, he couldn't play any of the other 3 games. So Saiteja Mukamala, he became the captain for USA. I think it's really harsh to judge him on 3 games because he's young. He's really young. He's just in his early 20s. I think he's 22 or 23 years old. So it's really harsh to judge him because this was the toughest tri-series assignment I think USA would have had this year. So it's a bit harsh to say that he did a poor job because he could only lead USA to 1 win out of 3 games. Yeah, maybe his captaincy might have had a few errors, but that comes along with learning on the job because it's new to him. So, but he did help USA beat Scotland. That was the first win they got against Scotland in this ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle, and finally getting a win in Nepal in the ODI format. Apparently, prior to this, USA had never won an ODI in Nepal, so they got that at least done, winning that 1 game against Scotland. Would have been nice to have beat Nepal in Nepal as well, because that would have been huge. And especially, the last time USA played Nepal in 2020, they got all off at 35. That's still one of the darkest days, I would say, in USA ODI cricket history. But they couldn't really exercise those demons against Nepal in this attempt as well. Both the games, they got all off for 195, whether it be batting first or batting second. I mean, in the final game when they batted second, they were 95 for 7. It was just disastrous performance trying to chase down 318. At least they got to 195 thanks to Sanjay Krishnamurthy scoring a half century and Nosh Kenjige making a crucial 29, at least to make the defeat a little more respectable for the US, even though it's over 100 runs. At least it wasn't like a 200-run defeat, which it looked very likely at that point. But it is what it is. USA were outplayed by Nepal twice. Can't blame anybody else but themselves. Against Scotland, they put up much better performances, whether it be in the win, the comprehensive win they had in the second meeting, or the first meeting where they nearly pulled off that unbelievable chase in 5 overs. But yeah, the bowling does need to be improved. I always did say that USA, their batting is their strength, their bowling, not necessarily. And even the bowlers who have been good for USA throughout this League 2 campaign, like Harmeet Singh, he was really ineffective in all the 4 games. He didn't play so well. Netravalkar, except the game against Scotland where USA won, he wasn't that helpful either. Jesse Singh played the first game of the Tri-Series, but then he didn't play much after that. They gave Rishal Ugarkar more of a run. I like that because they're trusting in Ugarkar for the future. He's got to learn how to not concede so many runs in the power play because of all those runs he concedes, the opposition, they just get an early advantage, and that could really hurt USA. So hopefully he learns from that. But I like to see that USA are investing more in him and giving him more opportunities. Maybe they could have played with Kapiti because that shows him over Shadley Van Skalkwyk. But they didn't, and that's okay. I get it. I mean, I was surprised that he was even in the 15-man squad, let alone to even get a game in this Tri-Series. I thought it was too early to bring in a PD, and he was there as a sub fielder maybe, but he didn't actually ball, which is fair. Yeah, and I think overall USA, they didn't have a great time in Nepal. Only won one game out of the four matches in the Tri-Series. They lost both the warm-up games to Nepal, so they were not at all good in Nepal. Hopefully, this is just a blip in form rather than a sign of things to come in 2026 in the ODI format. Yeah, the next time USA play in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2, hopefully they have a much better series than this. They could win at least 3 games. Maybe in the next Tri-Series, I think they play in Canada, so they'll be playing Canada twice, and if that's the case, then they play Netherlands as well, which will be another Tri-Series. Yeah, hopefully it can be Canada twice, and at least the Dutch once. Yeah, USA need to beat the Dutch as well, to gain that bit of confidence that yes, we can beat the Dutch and the Scottish teams. Yeah, so that's what could really hope from USA in the next Tri-Series rather, not in the next cycle. But yeah, I mean, despite the poor performance, they're still on top of the table, so I think that's actually pretty good for USA. Yeah, they got over the toughest Tri-Series, even though it wasn't a great performance. They're still on top somehow, and they have a 7-point lead over Oman, and a 10-point lead over Netherlands. So they have a good chance when they play against Netherlands in the next Tri-Series to hopefully win at least one of the games over them, so they can extend that lead over into the Netherlands and ideally beat Canada twice. Yeah, to touch on Scotland and Nepal, I mean, Scotland, they would have hoped to, get 3 or even 4 wins in this Tri-Series to overtake USA into first position. But I think after only getting 2 wins and now being tied on points with USA, but they've played 4 games more compared to USA, I don't think they have a realistic chance anymore of trying to win ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. So, yeah, they'll be a bit disappointed with that to not have extra silverware, but I think they're pretty safe to remain in the top 4 because they're 10 points ahead of Netherlands and 14 points ahead of Nepal right now. So I think they're fine. Whereas Nepal, I mean, prior to the Tri-Series at home, both of them, they were in 7th position and looking in real trouble. But at least now they've come up to 5th position, so they've improved quite a bit. Of course, if you're in Nepal, you probably would hope now, after beating USA twice, that USA can beat Canada twice, along with the Netherlands. So Canada walk away with 0 wins at home so that they stay below Nepal in the points table. Or maybe you would hope USA win all 4 against Netherlands and Canada. Netherlands don't win much because you could, catch up to Netherlands maybe. But yeah, I think for the best hope for Nepal to sneak into the top 4 would be to bank on Oman playing poorly. Because the Netherlands, they're probably just a bit too talented to drop out of the top 4 in the table. Yeah, so I think that'll be pretty much it about this Tri-Series. As a USA fan, overall, pretty disappointed with the performance, only getting 1 win out of 4 matches. But at the same time, pretty relieved that, they finally beat Scotland in this ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 cycle. And they got a win in a very difficult Tri-Series, which I had mentioned before. So not as horrendous of a performance as it seems. They hopefully can improve more in Indian subcontinental conditions for the future cricket they play there. That's something to hopefully improve on. Hopefully when they play the next Tri-Series, they perform much better and seal the first spot in the table and get into the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier and hopefully make it to the 2077 ODI Cricket World Cup. Anyway, that'll be it. If you've heard me ramble on for like 20 minutes, thank you so much for listening to me. As I said before, I like to keep this as a podcast style because I don't have much equipment. I just like to speak out my thoughts about, when USA play, or in general about ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 Tri-Series, because associate cricket's really fun. Yeah, that'll be the end of this video. If you like the video, please do like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. And until the next video, that'll be it. Thank you for watching. Bye.